Welcome to We Learn Network. This is session 2 and part 1 of data storage management. On the unit is data protection, backup and restore. In this session we are going to cover topics meanings of data protection, 5 components of a data protection strategy, a model for information data and storage, why is data protection important, and the data loss and business risk. Next, now we're going to introduction with the basic. We are going here to cover the data protection, backup, and restore. So I would like to explore the corporate data, and this was very necessary to manage the large amount of data. So storage technology such as the network storage that has made accumulation and management of the large amount of data that a corporate priority is now. So here we are going to basic the topic here with the meaning of data protection. Why we are studying here the data protection? Data protection is the protecting important data from damage, alteration, or loss. I hope you have the clear the meaning of the damage, alteration, or loss. So data protection encompasses a host of technology, business, process, and the best practices. And you can say the different technique that must be used for different aspect of data protection. For example, you can say we can use securing data storage infrastructure for necessary to reuse that data is not altered or miscellaneously destroyed. So to protect against inadvertent that data loss or permanent corruption and the solid backup strategy with accompanying the technologies needed. Now the word here the given in the front of the slide that the size of an enterprise that determine which practices, process or technologies are used for data protection. It is not reasonable to assume that a small business can deploy expensive and high-end the solution that is to protect important data. So, on the other hand, backing up data to tape or disk is certainly something that any enterprise can do. You know that अगर आप नॉर्मली कहीं डाटा अपने सिस्टम पे रखते हैं एंड सिस्टम कुछ हार्ड डिस्क फेल्ड हो जाती है आपका डाटा कम्प्लीटली लॉस हो जाता है बट इन केस इफ यू kept it in some other devices storage devices like in DVD and you can say in a separate USB and something else where data is kept then you can get here so it's where anyone can do like this way but simply we need to be protect our data because it's very difficult to every time to make some separate copies of here. So what we can do here, there are 5 component of data protection strategy basically. The first are here discuss that backup and the recovery. The what is here the backup and recovery, that is a safeguarding of data by by making offline copies of the data to restored in event of disaster और डाटा करप्शन. दैट्स वेरी क्लियर टू यू. बैकअप अगर आप वही बात करते हैं जैसे हमने कहा कि आप अपना डाटा कहीं और कुछ टाइम के लिए कॉपी करके रख रहे हैं एंड बाद में अपने करप्शन होने पे आप उसको यूज़ कर रहे हैं. दैट इज़ वन ऑफ द पॉइंट यू कैन से ऑफ द रिकवरी एज वेल. And the next one you can say remote data movement. How the remote data movement and the real time or near the real time moving of data to a location outside the primary storage system or the another facility to protect against physical damage to ski system and buildings. That's remote means you are getting the data from some place to another place at the same and at the meantime you need it and that time moving data from one location to another that outside the primary storage system or to another facility that is need to be protect against the physical damage to system by the building. More here about the storage system security that applying best practices and security technology to the storage system and to augment server and the network security measures. Now this is here about storage system security is very necessary because the data is to be not secure on which you are storing the data, then it's again difficult. That is very necessary to sometimes you need to store data on the network also that is to be here matter. So data lifecycle management is to be here the automated movement of critical data to online and offline storage. And the important aspect of DLM are placing data and considered to be a final state into a read-only storage, you can say, where it can be changed, and moving data to different type of storage depending on its age. And more about information life cycle management. Here a comprehensive strategy for valuing, cataloging and protecting information assets. So it's tied to regularly compliance as well, and the while similar to DLM also, as we last topic, that is operate on information, not the raw data. That decision are driven by content of information, requiring policies that to take into account and the next context of the information. Now we are going to know about a model for information data and storage. Here a traditional storage infrastructure was viewed, that is differently from the data and information that was placed on it. The traditional storage infrastructure means you are getting the search way, that way data can be viewed from the different way and the data can get easiest way, and the model being can be the traditional world of the storage. So here the hardware and the hardware device layer include all the hardware component that comprise a storage system including disk and tapes up to entire storage area location, you can say in the short is SAN. That is about the here that a model can be used over the world here. And more about here is that a model for information data and storage, that is very need to be clear about a model for information data and storage. Next we have the management layer, or the layer that compromise of all the tool or for managing the hardware resources. That's here the very important to manage the hardware resources, and some typical function of this layer include these devices and network management, that resource management, network analysis and provisioning is here required. Next is the data management layer, consists of the tools and techniques to manage data. Some typical functions within this layer are backup and recovery, remote copy, replication, and data lifecycle management practices. So these are the some management layer which contain about the tool through which you can manage data efficiently within the layers. So backup and recovery, remote copy remote copy means you can get data easily on the way from one location to another location. This is the one of the good way, and the next is the final piece of the model, and the uppermost layer is the information management layer. About the information management layer, the layer where the address is difference between the information and the data, that is the context here. More about here, the traditional storage infrastructure was viewed differently from the data and information that was placed on it. एंड मीन्स डाटा हमारे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर किस वजह के स्टोर है, कैसे व्यू हो सकता है, कितने डिफरेंट फॉर्म्स से हम डाटा को व्यू करके उसको यूज़ कर सकते हैं. एंड द मॉडल दैट बिगिन विथ ट्रेडिशनल वर्ल्ड ऑफ स्टोरेज means here how the traditionally modeling from the model that we begin to storage here, and the hardware or device layer include all the hardware components that comprise storage system including disk and tapes up to entire storage area network. More here, the next is management layer that comprise all the tool of managing hardware resources. Some typical function of the layer include devices, providing network. Data management layer consists of here tools, technique manual for system function like remote copy protection, and the final is the modem layer that we already discussed here one. Why is data protection important? That is the main thing here. We are doing some more here, protecting data again and again, because there are several reasons here. There are several reasons for spending money, time and effort on data protection. Why no? That's, I hope you also know that it's your important data of everyone, is either it's personal work maybe, but the primary one is the minimizing should be here the efficiency loss and the followed by the compliance with the regulatory and the requirements. So maintaining high level of productivity and meeting customer expectations, that is the main thing here. And that the single most important reason for implementing data protection, you can say, is the very fear for financial loss. But data is recognized as an important corporate asset that need to safeguard. Loss of information can be lead to the direct financial loss, but the loss sales, finance, or monetary judgment. So it can also be cause indirect losses from the effect of a drop in investor confidence or customer fleeing to competitors. That's some stolen or altered data can be result in the financial effects that are not known to the company until the much later. Some more important business driver of the data protection is the recent spate of regulation. Some government throughout the world have begun imposing the new regulation on electronic communication and store data. Business face dry and the consequence for non-compliance. Some country hold company executive criminally liable for failure to comply with laws regarding the electronic communication and documents. That is electronic communication we are discussing over the network, and the law regarding the electronic e-communication and the documentation. These are the regulation defined for what information must be trained here. And the next we are going to about the data loss and business risk. Yes, if your data will be not protected, obviously data will get lost. There is a hard risk here. So risk is a measure of the potential emotional loss, lack of return on investment or assets. So or the, so you can say, material injury also. Another way that is state here, that risk is the measure of exposure of the harm, and some common risks are material loss. For example, you can say damage, equipment, facilities, or products. That risk to sale and revenue. That are some lawsuits and the project failure and the market risk. Risk can be associated not only with the hard asset but such like a building or machinery. You can be, it's very also to be revenue to the customer loyalty and the investment in the project. Let's see the more about here the effort of lost data on business operation. Data may be categorized in the format three type of damage may be occur because of the data loss. If the first, you can say, data may be unrecoverable. Data may be unrecoverable. In this case, important business records may be lost forever or available only in hard copy. So any business may be lost forever, and that's any business process that are dependent on the data will now be considerably hindered, and this is the worst from the form of damage of the occur, you say. And the next one is here the data may be recoverable. If the data may be recoverable, that but may require considerable time for restore the scenario, the most likely assume that data is backed up in some other place separate from the primary source. So this is better for situation than the irrecoverable loss, but the data will unavailable while recovery operation take place. So in some cases, not all the data may be recovered, and this is the common problem when with the data stored from the nightly the backup and any data created during the day when the primary data was lost is not on the backup tape, but is the lost forever. So finally, the next one is the while data is unavailable, either permanently or temporarily. Applications not directly related to the loss of data may fail. If data is unavailable, then you can say the temporarily basis on data is to be lost on data may be failed. This is especially true of relational database that reference other database or loss of a central database of customer information. For example, you may cause the problem with with the sales system because the reference customer information and or loss of the type result can be failure. Basically, a risk all sales can you say a company may suffer measurable harm and data loss that make it impossible for it to be interact with the customer. So the result of the company is with the not realized sales for the revenue and the inability to operate here. The next one you can see method of another one of business risk here. The inability to the operate here, that extreme data loss such as the loss can say entire database and even temporarily has been known the cause of organization to fail. And more about it, that fulfill order, update employees record, produce financial reports, manufacture goods or the provide services. And the sum of because of the dependence of the information technology, this is very clear risk that data loss can make it possible for organization to perform properly. More about here, much of here the like list of the fines where the potential of the lowest fines which the company experience data loss with the shareholder. Leo states that fairly common but failure to protect data could easily lead to the litigate, and especially if the data loss can be tied to navigate the changes to the shares prices of company stock. And more that you can say about the risk is the very necessary to manage this data. Next about here, this is the exercise that you can try it by yourself. Is what do you mean by the data protection? As we already expressed the about the purpose of the protection, and it's also very clearly how can you protect your data. So you need to tell me the what is the basically the meaning of data protection and explain the 5 components of the data protection strategy. In this we covered in this session as well. Now we are winding up here. Thank you so much. Happy learning. We learn.